Hello and welcome back to SuperCoach Corner, where today I'm Darcy here with my team talk following round 15, heading into round 16, and well, it was a drop this week for me. After a pretty strong week last week, finishing the top 300 for the round, copped a big hit in my score and rank, so scored just a 2112, dropped about 1200 ranks to 4,331 for the year. Look, no Jackson was a big part of that. I mean, very popular player who scored huge, who I just happened to not have, and could be a long rest of the year if I decide to not get him. Already got the 3 rucks. We'll go through my team in a second, but yeah, a few decisions to come this week. I think it's a pretty big week in terms of trades for a lot of teams, with a couple of big injury news. Jack Sinclair, the big one. Tristan Xerri came out late last night about his broken jaw, out for 1 to 2 weeks. So what to do there is an interesting one with his drop in form, drop in role, and that sort of thing as well. So I'll discuss that a little bit in this episode because we didn't get to it. The news wasn't out when Tyson and I discussed it in the weekly pod. So if you haven't caught the pod, make sure you go across and give that a listen as well. We did mention we are planning to just do 1 episode a week for the rest of the year. So normally we have been doing the preview and the review each week, but thinking just with the people's trades sort of drying up and less content to discuss in the back end of the year, we can sort of combine them for a bumper pod and discuss all that's needed there. So let us know what you think of that. Obviously, we just want what you guys want. So if you leave your comments, your feedback in the comments, that would be great. But for this episode, we'll go through my team, how it fared on the weekend, and what I'll do moving forward. Yeah, as I said, I scored 2112. I'll go into last week. I think I just made the 1 trade in the end, which in hindsight was a terrible trade. So I had Murdoch, and I just I was shopping in a cheap like F6. I think I mentioned all last week that the best option was Durham, but I just wanted a player playing last week, and I was still in the SuperCoach Cup, which I ended up losing for those who are following along at home. But I wanted a player playing, was targeting the matchup, so I ended up going Murdoch to McKercher. It hurts because I didn't fill me with a whole bunch of confidence watching him play on Sunday. Sort of starting at half forward and just doing whatever he wants, which is, I guess, okay, but it's not. I don't know. I don't think it's got a huge ceiling to it. There's lots of mouths to feed back there, so he's not taking kickouts. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be the worst pick, seeing he's a forward and there's a lot of underperforming forwards, but it's definitely not something that fills me with heaps of confidence. But that was my 1 trade. Leaves me with 7 trades, with technically 1. What's it called? 1 upgrade. I'll just quickly move my team around. So I've got my best team on. No Bailey Smith hurt. Obviously, I mean, it affected a lot of coaches, but that hurts. LDU I brought in a few weeks ago has just been really poor, unfortunately. But this is the team. So got a LDU at M8, which is pretty nice. And the midfield's coming along pretty nicely. Andy Brayshaw's coming into some nice form. 123 round average, 110 5-round average is good after his terrible start to the year. A slight turnaround in form has been nice for me. The defense is probably the biggest issue with Nick Newman and Dan Houston. Newman's sort of just pumping out 90s, which I can take, and I think is a pretty serviceable D6. But Houston's probably the one. If I can somehow save some trades in the background and upgrade him, would be nice. In terms of forced trade, so this is the team. I'm not going to go through too much. Jack Sinclair is the name on everyone's lips this week. What to do with him? We touched on the best options on him in the pod, but for me personally, I think I'm going to use a little bit of DPP and maybe refrain from a defender this week, just because I do like Naz, and if I can get Naz next week, I think that can set me up really big for the back end of the year. I also like Wilkie if I wanted to save some cash. I think they're probably the 2 best options if you can get some DPP to work. And for example, I can use ZZ and get track in this week, which I might do. A couple options. I'll get to where my head's sitting, because I can go boring and go track and bring in Wilkie next week and sort of finish the team like that. And yeah, that's fine. And probably got the best players in each line. But there's a couple left field guys that are really intriguing me who might leave me with a couple more trades in my bank to finish my team and might help me in SuperCoach finals in that way. So that's something that I'm really flirting with, but I'll get to them after I do a quick review of the team. Nothing else really from the back line. Dirksen has done well. Like that's nice. Made about 115k now. If you can get one more game out of him with a break-even of 8 would be really good, but I don't think we'll get that with Jacob Wiedering a test for this weekend. Hawker Hahn is just proving to be really good. It gives us a bit of leeway with that D6, D5 even in my case, because he's really good cover and you can sort of loop him and hope that you can get the best out of him. So, yeah, that's where I'm sitting in the defence. For the midfield, Dawson got some attention from Sparrow, so he didn't perform to his best. Bailey Smith I touched on. The big dogs all performed. Butters, Bont, and Dacos was really good. Brayshaw was really good. LDU I touched on, and then Neil was on the bye. Sam Cullion came in and filled a role perfectly, so I almost moved him on last week to try and get an edge in my SuperCoach Cup matchup. Good thing I didn't, because he was one of my better scorers in the end, so that was great. Took the Gorn VC, which was good. I had it on Dawson for most of the week and then switched to Gorn last second, so that was a nice win. Just to be able to bank a good captain score in a week where most people had Jackson was really nice. Tristan Sherry scraped 106, and yeah, that's an issue now with the broken jaw, out from 1 to 2. My initial thoughts when I heard it was to trade, just because the role itself is so poor. I would have loved a way to get out of it, and now this is kind of an excuse to do it. But from all reports, like North have said, Mark Stevens said on SEN, and Cheese said on SEN as well on Fireball, that he's been playing a bit sore, and I think apparently it's his groins. 2 weeks off with a broken jaw, does that fix him? Does that give him the rest that he needs to attack the back end of the year? It's just one that could really hurt. To trade him out with not much cash in his head, go down to, I don't even know who I'd go down to. I haven't thought that far. But no cash in his head. He comes back in 1-2 weeks and he's a new Sherry and he averages 110, 115. I think that's very possible. And even with the bad roll, he's still scoring tons. The poorest his roll has been in the last 2 weeks, and he's gone 150 into 106. It's just not enough for me to justify the trade with the lack of trades that we have this year. So I think my gut feel now is to hold him, despite having a leg, being sort of behind the rest of the competition who don't have him. So that hurts, but we'll have to make it work. Of course, it's in the hardest buy round as well that he's missing. Forward line was good, all except for Kirch and Pickett. But that everyone has him, and Kirch was whatever. I've spoken about him already. I held Roby just because I didn't like any of the downgrade options this week, and I still don't like any of the downgrade options. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with Roby, just because, I don't like the downgrade options. And there's a guy that I want in my forward line to finish it who is on the bye. So I'll get to him. So that's my team. Grundy was on the bye as well, obviously. I'll optimize. I'll leave it actually how it is now. What I can do, so I got Sinclair. The best option, we spoke about this in the pod, but if you're looking for the best option this week and you're wanting a guy playing, I think it is, there's a few. I'll give you 3. I like Luke Parker. He's had a really good year, flown under the radar obviously a lot, has shown that he's got a huge ceiling, and can sort of compete with the rest with his floor. So I like Luke Parker at a nice price, banks you like 30k as well. So that's good. A couple more that I do like is Nick Blakey will cost you 1.5k. I think that's a nice buy if you can get there, which most people can. He's had his buy now, so his ceiling is matches it with the best down back as well. So I think he's someone you can really rely upon. Someone that I like around a similar price is James Sicily. No Weddle for 3 weeks, no Impey for 2 to 3 weeks as well. Should really free him up down there. And his run, in the back, like Hawthorn's run in the back end of the year is really nice. So Giants this week isn't the easiest, but Melbourne's good for halfbacks. Carlton, Richmond, Essendon, North. Brisbane, North and Brisbane can be tough, but then into Collingwood and West Coast to finish the year. So I really like this. It's a bit of a point of difference. I'm not sure exactly how many teams he is in. Where are we sitting? 7% of teams. So look, it's not like it's a nice point of difference for those who are looking there at a nice price and has a really SuperCoach friendly game. Always has. Like, a proven performer, averaged over 110 in back-to-back years. So he's done it before. I like this one. But like I said, I think my gut feeling, I think the smartest move for me is to just use a bit of DPP and bring in track, because everyone has him for one. So like the antipod of it all could really hurt me in the back end of the year. He's 480k. Like, he hasn't been this cheap all year, and he's averaging over 110. So it's such good buying. The other guy that I really like the look of, and if I waited a week for a forward, I'd get more information around him, is Rowan Marshall. I just think with TDK out with broken ribs and a punctured lung, I don't know the full extent as to how long that will be, but he could really go big in the back end of the year with some nice matchups. Essendon, after his bye, Port Adelaide have been somewhat favourable for ruckman this year. Geelong, obviously, probably the easiest ruck matchup, and then some harder ones in the back end. But Richmond and Gold Coast in finals, and Carlton, he can take advantage of too. I like this. Like, we don't know the full extent of Koning, so he could be 3 to 4 weeks, and then you've got this, 3 to 4 weeks of good scoring, and then it's gone. And that could really hurt you come SuperCoach finals. But who knows? Saints are sitting, what, 12th? Do they just put their star boy, who they paid $2 million a year for, on ice for the rest of the year, make sure he's right for next year, and try and maybe get a little bit... If Rowan Marshall looks to move clubs again at the end of the year, do they try and get a little bit out of him? So, like, they could build up his value a little bit by having him as a solo ruck for the back end of the year. So, I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing. I like it. I would like to take the risk on it because we know that he's done it before and averaged, over 110 in years gone by as a solo ruck. Obviously, that's changed this year with Tom DeConing coming in, but I think if he goes back to solo ruck with an even better side that they had last year, I think he can go back to his scoring ways. So he's someone that I'm super keen on. I just obviously can't go this week, and I'd like to get one more week of sample size, or one more week at least some news around Tom DeConing and maybe a timeline before. So I'm really stuck with what to do this week is the bottom line, and this is the last video for the week for us. So I don't know what I'll do, honestly. Like, my original plan was like Roby and Cumming to... This is before the Sinclair injury. Was Roby and Cumming to like Fitzgerald or Herbert or Swadling and track. I still think I just go track. The good thing about bringing in track this week as well is that I can then downgrade Roby to any rookie. Whereas, like, if I just go Sinclair to a defender, so say I go Sinclair to Sicily, who I like this week, I'm then stuck with just a forward rookie for Roby, and I've already got Podasky, so there's no one else that I really like at all. So it'd be a DPP guy. It'd be like a loophole guy that maybe the Morton Fives or whatever that Geelong guy, the defender forward. So a couple of options. I think my gut is telling me to grab track. And then Roby down to Swadling or Fitzgerald or Herbert. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Basically, I need a forward and defender to finish the team. Defender as a replacement for Sinclair, but I can do them in either weeks. If I go Marshall next week, it sort of gives me more cash to potentially go to a Naz if I can work that out. I get an extra 60k on track. Yeah, it gives me the cash for Naz. So it's tempting. Naz, I think, can really set you apart this year in the back end of the year with how good he's been and how St Kilda have looked to play their footy over the last few weeks and just get the ball in his hands at all costs. So he's someone that I want, but I don't know if I can afford him. Wilkie's there as well. Sam Banks is there for those who are really wanting to, bank some cash. And if you're low on trades, you could use Sinclair to Banks as a downgrade option. I like that play, honestly, and have him as your D6 and loop him with Hall Khan. I really can't afford it with Houston and Newman, just with like two guys that are already pulling down my score each week anyway. I don't think I can bring another one in, but I like that play. Bank the cash, use it as your downgrade, and upgrade elsewhere. So that's where I'm sitting. Not much clarity around my trade, so apologies for that. Haven't given a heaps of thought. End of financial year, work's quite busy, but we'll keep moving. If you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment. Let us know what you think of the review pod and the preview pod, the combined one. Best of luck this weekend. We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Cheers.